start with roll call.
Okay. Director Smelser.
David, I'm sorry, what? Are you here?
Present.
Oh, here, present, thank you.
Director Cox.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Wilkins, whatever that. Wilkins is absent today, and Vice President Tresson.
Here. All right, let's rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. And begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, we'll open the meeting to public comment. Anybody wishing to address the board on an item that's not on the agenda may do so. Anybody in the audience know? Rochelle, did we receive any written public comments?
We did not. There's no public comment.
Okay, we will then, no public comments, close item 2 on public comments and move to item 3, professional achievement awards and anniversaries. Vicki, you give me that?
Vice President Trusan and the directors. And I just wanted to, on a monthly basis, acknowledge employee professional achievements, awards, and anniversaries. We have several safety awards from this past quarter, and those include Anthony Salinas, Herbert Hodges, Jesus Zarate, Dean Haynes, Joel Oberle, Jeff Navarrete, and Trevor Shamblin. So we want to thank all of them for their received safety awards, and also thank those that submitted safety awards that were, or safety suggestions that were not awarded. And then last but not least, and certainly a big accomplishment, we want to acknowledge Michelle Mackey with a 25-year anniversary in October of 2022. And she's not here, but I'm giving her
Well, thank you, Vicki. On behalf of the board, please send our appreciation to Michelle and thanks for her many years of service. And I'll just say that I was really impressed with the number and quality of the safety recommendations that were presented, and so that program seems like it's really working well, and looked like some really positive improvements for the agency, and so our appreciation from the board on that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, on to item 4, the consent agenda, ratifying the payment of the general fund warrants and approval of the financial statements. I will open that up to any questions that other board members have. Myself and Director Wilson on the Finance Committee reviewed both of these and are recommending approval. But if there's any questions on the general fund warrants or the financial statements, we can tackle those. Hearing none, I'll take a motion. I'll open up for public comment. I'm hearing any.
I'll
entertain a motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Now, are we ratifying the fund, general fund?
Yes.
And the financial statements with one motion?
Yes.
Okay, so moved.
Great. I have a motion by, I believe it was Director Cox, and a second by Director Smelser. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. All right. On to the regular agenda items. Item 5, number 1, approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting of September and the special board meeting of September 21st. Any comments, questions from the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, motion and a second. Any public comments? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Great. Item 2, this is the approval of resolution number 15, 2022, approving employee health benefit changes and restating employee benefits. Vicki, did you want to walk us through that?
Yes,
Great.
please. So good morning again, Vice President Truesdale and directors. At the September 2022 Board of Directors meeting, the board reviewed and recommended changes to employee health benefits that included a change to the cost sharing for the employee that enrolls in PERS Gold rather than PERS Platinum. And the changes included eliminating the 50% cost savings share, but then adding a defined amount as a cost savings share as an alternative. Resolution 15-2022 and its Exhibit A incorporate these changes as well as provide minor language cleanup. Management and staff recommend the approval of Resolution 15-2022, approving employee benefit changes and restating employee benefits. Any questions?
Discussion?
Yes, any questions?
Vicki, have we had any pushback or heartburn over the decisions we made last month?
The general manager, the interim general manager held an all-staff meeting, and we discussed the issue quite in depth with staff. They were able to ask whatever questions they may have. Those questions were answered, and we have now gone through open enrollment. Open enrollment data does not show that there was any significant change in enrollment, and in fact it actually, I would say, went the other way, where more employees enrolled in PERS Gold rather than PERS Platinum.
Okay. Thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I want to thank staff, I think it was Vicki, you and Richard, for meeting with staff after the board meeting. Health benefits, we said this last month. It's a complicated thing to fully understand. It's hard to give them, the 90-page platinum pamphlet and the 90-page gold pamphlet and tell them, go understand the difference. And so I appreciate you guys meeting with them, answering questions, and was glad to hear it appeared to go well and the questions were answered. And so thank you. And again, this is something I think on an annual basis, the agency should look at these health benefits, and looking forward to seeing what PERS does next year. But I think you've captured that alternative 4 that we approved, and so if there's any other questions or clarifications, I'll entertain a motion to adopt approval of Resolution 15, 2022.
So moved. So moved. Second.
Okay, moved by Smeltzer and seconded by Cox. Any other questions, comments, anything from staff that you received? No?
I would just like to make one quick comment here is we asked staff to do something that was pretty difficult in a very short time frame, and I think you did a remarkable job. I really want to make sure that you guys understand that. I think we all up here appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Okay, we have a motion and a second. At this point, all getting the term now. All in favor of adopting the resolution, say aye.
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 Don't need a roll call on
Those against? Do we need? Oh, we need a roll call. True, it's a resolution. Thank you, David.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Smeltzer?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
And Vice President Tressa?
Yes.
Resolution approved.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3. This is approval of the updated general manager classification description. Vicki?
Yes. On a continuous basis, we maintain the accuracy of the classification descriptions as any proposed changes may occur. As we currently have an interim general manager and may be looking to recruit in the near future, we are adding clarifying language to the experience and education sections of the classification description. Similar changes have been incorporated into other job descriptions in the recent past when we were preparing to recruit. Management and staff recommend the approval of the updated general manager classification description. Any questions?
Nope, it's, directors, any questions?
None
Do you
here.
understand the changes being proposed?
Yep.
To provide experience in lieu of education. And great. So, any public comment? Rochelle, we've saved any public comment on this item? No?
We have not.
I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve the updated general manager classification by Cox, seconded by Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Okay, so, without, Dan here, do we need the roll call on these? Or if he
To
was
be absent.
participating in its absence, we'd need a roll call, correct?
Only in a virtual meeting.
Okay.
Teleconference.
On to item 4, approval of updated SPSL policy. Vicki, again.
Yes, thank you again. As it relates to COVID-19, in 2020, the Department of Labor mandated that EPSL, Emergency Paid Sick Leave, and FMLA expansion policy, which was effective through the end of 2020. In 2021, the board approved on its own the extension of EPSL, which was later mandated by the state of California, and the name changed to SPSL. That policy was effective through September of 2021. In 2022, the state of California mandated the extension of SPSL through September 30th of 2022, which has now been extended again by the state of California to be effective through December 31st of 2022. The extension does not provide a new bank of time. Rather, it only extends the sunset date for the policy from September 30th to December 31st of 2022. Management and staff recommend the approval of the 2022 supplemental paid sick leave policy with an updated sunset date of December 31st, 2022. Any questions?
Thank you, Vicki. This is a question for legal. I mean, it's probably good practice to adopt this policy at an agency level, but this is a state mandate, so it's not like if we didn't approve this, we could somehow circumvent the state requirement to provide this benefit, right?
I think that's right, but it is important for the agency policies to be consistent with state law, so that we have notice to employees of their rights. So I think it is important to do the update.
Okay, so we don't really have a lot of discretion on this, guys, but it sounds like it's good practice to update our internal policy. Anybody have any questions on the policy? And who knows how long these things will continue to be extended, but at least through the end of this year. I'll entertain a motion for approving the new policy. Dave?
Aye, second.
Moved and seconded by Scott. Any other questions? Any public comment? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
And on to item 5, approval of a services agreement with Corello Engineering for the additional boiler heating redundancy design project.
Dave Parker is going to present the staff report.
Good morning, Vice President Tucson, directors. So before you today is a memo summarizing an event that took place in September Just a little bit of background. We're in the midst of our digester improvement study. That study charts the path forward in terms of what we're going to do in terms of updating our boiler system and how we're going to construct that, stage that, et cetera. And that study is in draft form. We have comments back to our consultant. The consultant is addressing those. In the meantime, in September of this year, just last month, we had a boiler fail. That was boiler number 2. And it failed to the point where, unless repairs are made, that boiler is inoperable. We have 3 steam boilers, and so this is one of those 3 steam boilers that failed. We also have 1 hydronic boiler, hot water boiler, that's in a separate part of the building. This failure, while we're going to fix the boiler, underscores the importance of us maintaining our reliability up until the point in which we build our new facility. And that these 3 steam boilers, of which 1 just failed, they're all of the same vintage. They're all 45 years old. We've been maintaining them for years. They've all had repairs over the years, but we started to get concerned that if one of them catastrophically failed, last month, could another one be about to catastrophically fail too? So what we'd like to do, and what we did is we needed to take emergency action to bring a consultant to start looking at our system, because the issue is that we're now barreling into winter, and that's when our heating demands really go up on account of not only process heat because of lost ambient temperatures, but also building heat. And in order to create a fix to this redundancy problem, if we had gone out to the traditional, write an RFP, select a consultant, write a scope of work, get started on design, put it on the streets for bidding, construction award, et cetera, that we wouldn't get a repair done until spring or maybe early summer, and miss our window of trying to respond to this winter. So with Richard's assistance, we sought some emergency support from Dan Wilkins to go ahead and start engaging with a consultant even before today's meeting. And so we had a meeting a couple weeks ago with our consultant, Corolla, and they held a workshop, they looked at the site, and then we asked them to quickly create the scope of work for us to put before you today, which authorizes the work. And the work essentially is finding a way for us to, if it's feasible, we think it will be, to take our hot water boiler, a hydronic boiler that's in this other part of the building, and connect that into our heating system so that can serve as redundancy. Right now, that serves an area that doesn't fully back up some of our other needs, and with some modifications, mechanical modifications, we think we can have that boiler support those needs. So in essence, that's what this task order does. In our haste to get the task order out, there were a couple items having to do with the determining what type of heat conveyance system we should be moving forward with, and in the future, and then doing a cost-benefit analysis. That part is we recommend removing from the scope, because that's actually covered by our other consultant study. So it's really these other pieces that are there. The cost is the same. It's just we had them remove the cost for that piece, but they forgot to remove the text that was associated with that piece. So the costs for this are as shown in this staff report, and not to exceed amount of $123,910. And that's without optional task 5. Optional task 5 would bring that total up to $139,266. The difference between those is that optional task 5 would be invoked if we need to go out to the contractor and have them bid this work. Then if so, then we would need help from our consultant to help answer technical questions that may come up during the bid phase. The intent right now is maintenance staff so far has, Richard has looked at what's been proposed, and the thinking is that we could probably do that in-house. We need with in-house labor, but we need to see what the final proposals are before we make that final commitment or decision. So before you today is this task order for our engineer to come in and perform these engineering services and develop a plan on how to hook up this hydronic boiler, evaluate does the boiler have enough capacity, do all the checks and balances so that we can move forward.
Jay, are you talking about the boiler that Jim Redmond put in here a couple of years ago? That is the house boiler for this building, correct?
Correct. So that's a
hydraulic?
boiler that serves this end of the plant that's in our lunchroom. These are the boilers that are down in our digester building, and they heat the process, but they also heat the buildings that are not served by the boiler that you're referring to.
Okay. What was the nature of the failure of the boiler that failed?
Correct me if I'm wrong on the terms, but firebox, or there's a box in there that has some failures, where the wall has split open and deteriorated in numerous spots.
That and the pressure vessel portion of it,
And these boilers are 45 years old.
at least.
Yeah, if these boilers are original to the plant, so 1970.
So what we're talking about installing a replacement boiler of same type here. How?
No, so what we're talking about is we have the 3 existing steam boilers that are tied into some heating loops for processing the building heat. We installed it back in the 2003 expansion. We installed a hydronic hot water boiler in a separate part of the building. That boiler currently only heats digester 33, one digester. The idea is to take that boiler, because we think it has capacity for it, and to expand its ability to heat by tying into some of the same systems that the three other boilers support. So it wouldn't be a new boiler. It's just taking an existing boiler that we have and making it more useful by tying in some new connections to some of our existing systems.
So this is a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid, but actually the idea on these improvements is that we think this may have utility even beyond today's emergency. During construction, the work that's being done would be useful, and we think even after construction it would be useful.
Having a failure of one of the 4 boilers that are 45 years old, that should send a very strong message that we should look at replacing all 4 boilers at some time in the very near future, which would probably be a pretty costly endeavor. However, with the technology that I've seen over the last 40 years, we're way overdue on stepping up to the more efficiency output boilers that they have today. And do we have any kind of an idea, without going to Carrillo, of what one of these boilers cost and what it would cost to replace the whole battery?
So the digester improvement study, which is being done, being the one I was referring to that's in draft form, that is a job that replaces those boilers to the latest technologies and everything that's involved in that. It's not just replacing the boilers, but it's all the support systems and other digester control building upgrades that need to happen. So that was part of the master plan. Is part of the master plan. And,
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
And that's the purpose of the study is to dial in what our path forward is for those new boilers, and then the follow on. What you'll see in upcoming months is we'll be going out to RFP on the digester improvements design. So that'd be conceptual schematic design, final design, et cetera, of the boilers.
So the Master Carrillo that we approved here a few months ago, that was included in the study, was those boiler replacements.
Correct.
Did they give us a timeline on when those boilers should be replaced?
Well, yeah, and that's why. So the digester improvement study it was started right away because that's one of the first projects on the master plan. So it's in that phase one, those first 5 years. And
That was included.
Yeah, and it's going to be, the actual construction of it will be several years from now because it takes time to get through all that design process. So that's why this is important, is that it provides that stopgap redundancy so that in the event that another boiler fails, we aren't hung out to dry. We still have heating redundancy.
Did Carrillo have a sequence where they replace one boiler at a time? Is that it?
No, it's
You can't do it that way.
Yeah, it's all at once. That's a difficult space down there to try to stage, and the space. What we're looking at is a new building because of the space constraints and other code requirements, et cetera.
So, Jay, the master plan was done by Carrillo. It looks like you're looking for seeking approval from the board for this kind of stopgap study to deal with this, potential this failure of one boiler and backup for the others. Is the digester improvement study, is that also Carrillo?
No, that's Jacobs. So that's CH Terminal.
I'm curious, and it sounds like that digester bigger study by Jacobs is in the process, and so those guys are really knowledgeable right now about the digester system. Why did we not use Jacobs, a change order in that project, to look at this, as opposed to bringing in a totally different consultant to deal with the stopgap?
Yeah, a couple reasons. Number one, the digester study doesn't get down to the level of details where, it isn't there that Jacobs would have already modeled the system or know exactly what changes need to occur. That's very out of scope compared to what they were doing.
Okay.
But then also, because of the emergency basis, Jacobs has staff in Truckee and in Reno.
Jacobs or Carrillo?
I'm sorry, Carrillo
Okay.
has staff in Truckee and in Reno. So to be able to get here at a moment's notice to help in the design, this is fast track. We need to get it done ASAP. Whereas our Jacobs support is out of Reading, and historically it's been very difficult in terms of getting them here at the right time and spending enough time on site. So yeah, we felt like the best path forward here was Jacobs. Carrillo, sorry.
Gotcha.
So this 139 is going to carry us through in a safe manner to next spring or next summer?
We hope so. It adds redundancy, so it gives us more belts and suspenders than we currently have.
And are we looking at any plans to replace that battery of boilers like next summer?
So, no, it won't be as soon as next summer because we have to go through this process of the study first and then get the conceptual design done as a separate effort, schematic design, then final design, et cetera, and then bid, award, construction, et cetera. That whole process, if this was simply as easy as sliding in and out of pump somewhere, yeah, no problem, but this is a
Big
pretty
deal.
complex project.
So we're talking a building to house these boilers, updated boilers, totally new engineering in the whole bit.
Yes.
And
So you did
I'm a
that.
little nervous, because a boiler failure, when you have a battery of boilers like what we have, and we have a failure, it should throw up a red flag like really high, because these boilers are what keeps this plant functioning, and we should be moving at a breakneck speed to get these boilers replaced in its entirety. And
One of the benefits here is that we're pretty sure that Hearst boiler, the hydronic boiler, will be able to support most or all of the heating needs. And so if that's the case, you have your hydronic boiler, which essentially has not been used. It's in a decent shape compared to these other boilers. So you have the one boiler, the newer hydronic boiler. If that's able to support most of the process needs, now you have 3 of these older steam boilers to provide backup. And so on the surface, it might seem like we're in dire straits, but if we were to get this, the newer hydronic boiler
tied in.
Yeah. Then we think we have a good plan to get us through to
The
construction.
critical period.
Also, furthermore, our consultant is also looking into ability to tie in rental boilers in case the catastrophic were to happen and we needed to rent a boiler or to buy a portable boiler to supply process heat from a temporary installation outside the building. So I feel like we have some good backup plans here.
You got it covered.
That's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Let's see, we have a question from.
Yeah, so Jay, it sounds like the hydraulic boiler has enough capacity to handle if another boiler in the battery fails. Is that what you're
If we're
saying?
having the consultant verify if our first boiler has that capacity.
Okay.
But Michael, do you have anything you want to weigh in here in terms of what your
So,
experience is?
yeah, so the hydronic boiler, it's a Hearst boiler. It was the newer boiler. Its original, when it was installed, it was originally installed to handle all of our primary and TWAS loading to the digesters. Digester 33 was going to be a primary digester, so it was going to take all of our raw feed, and that boiler was sized to be able to heat that. And with our current configuration, we're actually equally feeding the 3 digesters as primary digesters. So it's still the same amount of energy needed to keep that process heated and to get our digestion that we need to achieve. So because it was sized that way, we anticipate that it'll be able to handle the same load that we would have been giving just digester 33. So this is a form of a backup to our system. And as Jay mentioned, we see this as a long-term backup because we are going to probably in the process of getting the new digester building and new boiler building and new boilers. We're still going to probably be using that primary loop, which is a heating loop for a hot water system, and we'll be able to still utilize that, so that will save us hopefully some capital and be able to use some of the existing facilities still to heat our processes, and then we just have to figure out how we're going to do the building heating, which will be part of that process as well.
So our consultant, when they were here a couple weeks ago, and they were looking at the nameplate, and this is somebody who's been in the industry, the boiler digester heating, design process for industry for over 20 years. That's kind of all he's done in his career. He looked at the boiler size, and his intuitive guess was that the hydronic boiler has sufficient capacity to cover all the heating needs. So we're fairly certain that the answer is yes, based on our own experience, and based on what our engineers first look at it was. But that's part of the scope, is for them to look at the numbers, do the analysis, and confirm that that's the case.
And so is there any need for like new infrastructure to tie it into the other three, or is that already?
So yeah, there's being at a minimum new piping, new valves, and potentially control system modifications. Probably not very much there, and so that type of work would hopefully be able to be done by our maintenance staff.
And the additional task 5 is the contingency if it exceeds the ability of our staff to do it, for assistance from this consultant through the bidding process, in case you need to get that work done outside.
Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, bid phase services essentially,
Yeah.
in case we have to hit the streets with the.
So
And
my
if-
question was about the timeline of how long does this system need to last until we have the new boilers and boiler building completed?
Yeah, it's until the new boilers and buildings are completed, and the
What's
best
your-
guess is that's probably several years. From
Several years.
now. Yeah, like probably on the order of 3 to 4 years
3 to 4 years.
before you're hitting startup of the system.
Scott, did you have another question?
Yes. So if there is a catastrophic failure and we have to bring in a portable boiler, would there be an easy way to tie it into the piping system?
So on first glance, they think yes, that there would be a way to tie into the existing systems, but that's part of the scope. Also, is okay. We need a plan from them, in case we need to go that route. Where's the boiler going to sit? How's it going to tie in? And which location? And what kind of features we need.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that the hydronic boiler appears to have sufficient capacity. The digestion process is primarily a solids reduction process.
And stabilization.
And so, just spinning out kind of a worst case scenario where, we're not able to heat the digesters adequately because of a boiler failure or some other hiccup, we still continue to meet our effluent requirements. It doesn't really impact necessarily our process, does it? It just means that we're not getting a solids reduction in our solids, and we're hauling a lot more stuff out to, Lockwood or Bentley Ranch or wherever our solids are. I'm just trying to kind of figure out what the worst case scenario if our heating system really significantly fails.
Well, because of the nature of the EPA 503 regulations, we do have to maintain a certain reduction of our solids, or we can't actually truck them legally and dispose of them the way we do now. We would have to get some sort of waiver or variance, so we really want to try to avoid that.
Okay,
if
thanks,
possible.
Mike. That's good to know.
We would, in my mind, we would take away from the building heat before we take away from the process heat. If we only had just enough heat to heat the process, we would be looking at ways maybe to do some temporary heating in some of the buildings and stuff. But we do want to maintain that process temperature because it's critical. to
Okay, so it's not
digestion
just solids reduction, but it's also pathogen
Yes.
reduction by temperature and time
Stabilization and yes.
to allow us to take it to the places we're taking. Okay, thanks. That's important. And then the heat source for whether it's the hydronic boiler or the steam boilers, is that the gas produced in the digesters? How much of that, and just supplemented a little bit with, do we have a natural gas pipe to our facility here? What is our heat source for these?
So we do. So the original steam boilers that are the older boilers, they can run either fuel oil or they can run methane, which is the digester gas. That's their fuel sources. Typically, we try to run methane through them so that we can burn that free gas that we produce during the digestion process because it saves us money. And then the Hearst boiler can actually run natural gas, methane, or fuel oil. It has 3 fuels it can run. And it can also run a blended fuel, which is natural gas and digester gas. And that's typically the way we run that. And it's about a 40-60% blend, about 60% digester gas, 40% natural gas.
And, I mean, rough numbers, what percentage of that heat source comes from the digesters themselves? The biogas?
It depends on the time of the year, of course.
Right.
During the winter, we provide right around, I want to say about 90 to 95% of process and building heat is produced and utilized by the digester gas. As long as we've got good digester gas, the boilers are running correctly. You know, digester gas is not as stable to burn as fuel oil because of the way the burners are set up. So, but typically about 90% of the energy is.
So there's another cost impact if they fail. You're not getting the solids reduction. You're not getting the pathogen reduction. You're not getting the biogas. We're having to purchase outside fuel. It's
not cheap right now.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like something we want to take action on here and get this going. Is this? I'm trying to remember. I know you said you talked to Dan Wilkins about this. In effect, this process has begun already, right?
It's begun already. We're having them charged to general consulting at the moment. We have a general consulting number, but the idea is if you did approve it today, we would transfer those funds over to this fund.
In the numbers you've given, I know that I think we have a later item here about change orders associated with service projects like this. You've given us you're looking for the approval, including optional task 5 of $139,000. This project has, in my mind, it sounds like there's a fair number of unknowns in there, and I'm wondering whether or not it would be prudent for us to provide some additional contingency as well for unanticipated findings, given the urgency of this and not wanting to delay this further.
I think that would be a wise decision. I'll defer to Jay to put a percentage or a dollar amount that we might anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess normally I would say 10%, but the fact that this came together really quickly, I guess I'm concerned that what if we left something out? So, I mean, 15% or even 20% would be great. But, we have our understanding with them is that this is T&M not to exceed. They're only charging what they're going to, charge to do the work.
But, okay, so.
So what you're saying, Blake, is we should, in addition to the 139, we should have maybe a 10% more that we can just kind of sit back and hold, that you don't have to come to the board for a change order or any kind, if we have our back to the wall.
Right. If it's more complicated than originally anticipated, some of this tie-in for a skid-mounted temporary connection point or something like that is just more complicated than originally anticipated. We need to keep the project going. I mean, I have great faith in Jay and staff in managing the project, and not just because we give a contingency that the consultant doesn't feel like they're going to take advantage of that, but it just allows them to work with delay. So my recommendation, based on what I heard from Jay, is just, given the unknowns in this kind of project, which is typical for a retrofit, emergency retrofit, would be to approve the project, including the optional task 5 and a 20% contingency.
Very good. So moved.
Anything? All right.
Second.
Okay, one final question, Mr. President, if I may. Jay, this building that we're talking about and a new battery of boilers and everything that we've been talking about, is Carrillo going to give us a scientific wild ass guess of what this is going to cost?
As far as the new building, that's Jacobs, and so our other consultant who's doing the study, they've given us numbers, updated numbers in this draft report that we gave to Richard and Crystal for the rate study.
Okay.
So the master plan had a number, but then it's been refined since then with the study. And so we're using the latest available numbers for the new building.
So we have we have in our asset replacement fund funds to cover this, or are we looking at a 3 to 5 year situation to raise rates to cover this?
To
How
cover
is
this particular cost?
this
Yes.
particular project?
Yes.
Well, not the. Are you referring to this emergency work? Or are you referring to the
No,
new
I'm
boiler?
the long term. The long term.
Yeah, that's in the
It's in
master.
our rate study, it's in the math of the rate study.
Okay.
So that, that we have to go down that whole path of the rate study.
Yeah, that was part of, Carollo did throw a number at it in the 25-year master plan, and that master plan is the basis, part of the basis for the rate study is those costs, so it should be incorporated.
And the rate study has the rate study that we're working on has the current dollar amount from the study that we got from Jacobs.
Okay. No further questions. I move to approve
Okay.
the $139,000 with a 20% contingency.
Great, and I think we had a second
We
by
had a second, yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Well, good luck, guys. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item 6, approval to procure variable frequency drives.
I've asked Paul Schaus, our electrical and instrumentation supervisor, to present the staff report.
Good morning, Vice President and Board. So during the budget process for this current fiscal year, we identified 6 different drives that were in service, but were beyond their useful life. Similar drives, about the same lifespan, had already failed throughout the plant, and these 6 drives are part of our critical processes throughout the plant. They were identified during as part of that, and it was approved on June 15th by the Board of Directors. There's 3 line items for the replacement of the filter press feed pump, the odorous air fan, and the cake discharge hopper variable frequency drives. If we go back to 2019, staff and management had assessed different makes and models of variable frequency drives, and we had landed on the Allen Bradley PowerFlex 755T variable frequency drive as the most suitable and cost-effective replacement. And this will lead us further on down that path to replace these drives with that same make and model. Per the manufacturer, one vendor, Rexel, is the sole distributor for the Allen Bradley variable frequency drives in the service area, and they provided quotes totaling $97,990.13. They did kind of give us a little bit of a heads up that they anticipate a price increase in January prior to the time of delivery of these drives. They don't have an exact number for that, so the estimated project total is probably somewhere in the realm of $107,789.14. That includes a 10% contingency for factory price increases, but that is less than the total amount of $115,000 of the combined line items identified in the 22-23 budget. So our recommendation is we are requesting from the board to approve approval to procure 3 Allen Bradley 755T variable frequency drives and allow the interim general manager to negotiate purchase up to the budgeted amount of $115,000.
Any questions?
Nope. I just don't-
So, Paul, specking on the single Allen Bradley unit. It sounds like we've already purchased other ones. I would assume from your staff and maintenance perspective, having one type of product is a lot easier if there's replacement parts, troubleshooting, stuff like that. And so, it's typical that I wouldn't say it's not untypical to sole source, but this is something that you don't want a bunch of different types of VFDs out there. So just confirming the additional value of sole sourcing that.
That's correct. We have several different manufacturers in the plant currently. Over the years, we've diverged and we've had Robicons, Allen Bradley, Square D, a lot of different manufacturers. Each one of those drives require us to have a certain amount of expertise and experience in programming those drives, software, spare parts, things like that. This allowed us to kind of unify that training, expertise, and those spare parts so that we have less parts on the shelves, so we can lower our overhead that way. And our staff become more and more familiar with those drives. And in some cases, it has allowed us to reuse code that we've implemented with our SCADA system.
Excellent. Did I have a motion to approve?
You do have a motion to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Wilson. Any other questions? Not. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Item 7, approval of Resolution 16, 2022, superseding Resolution 19, 2021, authorizing general manager to approve certain construction service contract agreement change orders.
Yeah, so this is in reference to last month's board directors meeting where we requested to revise the resolution to include service agreements. Verbiage is the same. All we did was add in on top of the construction service, added on top of construction services and related contracts that relate to services. Dollar amounts remain the same. Again, just verbiage to add that other type of agreement that we do.
No, that's made a lot of sense. Appreciate you guys keeping house well. Any questions from anybody?
I'm good.
Entertain a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. I think this requires a roll call.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Smelser?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
And Vice President Tresman.
Yes.
Motion and resolution approved.
Thank you. Item 8, discussion of in-person board of directors meetings for November and December. I think this came up in discussions I had with Director Wilkins. He is not here this month, and he looked at his calendar, and our scheduled meeting in November 16th, he is also unavailable. And so we were discussing the opportunity to postpone the regular meeting of the 16th to potentially November 30th or December 7th, and that might also provide the opportunity to, depending on staff's workload, cancel the regularly scheduled December board meeting, which is scheduled for the 21st, which is awfully close to the holidays. And just so interested in you guys' availability to do a meeting on November 30th. Does that work?
Works for me.
As long as I can be on video or be.
By phone? You're going to be in? Okay.
I'm available, but I just won't
Okay.
be here.
I can be here.
You can be here, Dan can be here, so our recommendation would be to hold an in-person meeting on November 30th with understanding that Director Cox may attend remotely and to work that out. I mean, we have some time before then to work that out, but likely cancel the meet or postpone the meeting of the 16th, and depending on workload, you guys will be able to get back to us on that. potentially cancel December's meeting.
Okay.
Okay, now, we're talking about canceling the full December board meeting. We won't have a board meeting at all the month of December.
Right, we're sort of putting a postponed November meeting between the two dates, and
Okay, so you said between November 30th and December 7th?
so we were looking at, those were the two alternative dates for a postponed November board meeting, and I think the 30th works better. If I recall, Scott, I think you
I'm gone.
indicated he was gone on the 7th, and I think Wilkins preferred the 30th.
I think so.
Is that right? I think he was able to work either of them, and both worked for me as well. So we have one on the 30th, and hopefully we can.
You
Go
might
through
have an
December
issue
without a
with
board
the-
meeting.
Is it
But-
Thanksgiving the 24th and 25th?
So it's the week after Thanksgiving.
That might hinder
Board-
board packet delivery.
Yeah,
But
I
we
mean,
could do it just earlier in the week.
exactly. You could do it the week before, so it still gives you an extra week to put that together. And I'm not recommending that we cancel the December board meeting at this time, but there's an opportunity, if we can get the business done in November 30th, to cancel that. But really, that depends on your guys' workload.
So, Director Tristan, one issue to consider is if you want to keep the rescheduled meeting as a regular meeting, then the board does need to take action to approve that change, which you can do today. But that limits your flexibility in having staff go back and look at their calendars right now. So you would have to make a decision today if you wanted to reschedule and keep it as a regular meeting. If you don't want to do that, you can go ahead and just direct staff to make it a special meeting on November 30th. But there's some differences there in what can be brought up at the meeting.
Okay. So the board has to take action on a postponed regular meeting? That can't just be done at a staff level?
Correct, for a regular meeting, yes. For
Okay.
special meetings, staff can do it, but for a regular meeting, the board
Okay.
sets the schedule and does
We
have to
post
take
an
action.
agenda canceling the regular meeting and then post another one for a special.
Okay, I believe, there's the potential for, as council said, it's preferable for us to do a postponed regular meeting than do a special meeting, and so that requires action by the board at this point to direct staff to postpone the regular meeting, or have that be, postpone regular meeting on the 30th. And so I would like to recommend that we provide that direction. I don't know that it's just direction, right? Or do you need motion action?
A motion would be appropriate. I think it's within the scope of what's being considered
Okay.
on the agenda item, so I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, while we got this discussion on the agenda, I've been watching the news here over the last few weeks, and the Center for Disease Control is predicting another bumper year for these two new COVID strains, as well as a flu season that will be like none other. And I was just wondering that, we had very good success conducting business with Zoom meetings. And, with the threat of these COVID variants and the flu season and what we got going health-wise, I was just wondering if we as a board shouldn't address using the Senate Bill 361 to be able to have Zoom meetings. That way, I think it would streamline, for me especially, although I do commute back and forth, but even if we do have a Zoom meeting, a lot of times I just come here for the ease of me attending the meeting and not going through hassling Rochelle. But what do you think about looking at Senate Bill 361 prior to board meetings and going on Zoom for the next few months?
Dale, go ahead.
Director Cox, I did want to give you one bit of information that you might already be aware of. And acknowledging it's an evolving situation, nobody knows where COVID's going to go, but the governor has said that he is planning to end the emergency declaration effective, I believe, at the end of February. So the emergency declaration, at least right now, is expected to be in effect through that time, which means that your AB 361 authorization continues, depending on local conditions and the board's willingness to meet on Zoom. So you do have that ability for at least the next couple months, as you say, but the expectation, at least at this point, is that authorization will end at the end of February. And
But
going
there's a
forward, it will be
possibility,
back.
from what I understand, that they will extend that.
Correct.
And I was just, like I say, taking care of business with Zoom, I found it to be very comfortable for me, and for, most other board members to be able to do the meetings from our homes. And I'd like to see how everybody else feels about putting a Zoom meeting together and moving forward until the end of February. And if there's an extension on that emergency declaration, then we can make decisions at that time. But it would sure be convenient to go Zoom for the next few months.
Yeah, the Zoom works pretty darn well. I guess my take would be I'd like to make a motion to postpone the meeting of the 16th to the 30th, and then, I'd like to get Wilkins' opinion also. I enjoy getting together. I think I'd prefer to have an in-person meeting. I understand that it's more better interaction if you're going to be remote. If it's Zoom, then you're doing it over a speakerphone.
Yes.
And so I'd like to not make a decision on that. At this point, we have up until the time the board agenda is published, which for the 30th is probably going to be, the day just before Thanksgiving weekend. And so see what's going on with the virus and where folks are at, and have Dan and Rochelle and Richard kind of powwow, and I'm open to it, but not make a decision at this point. But we can do that closer to the date of publication. That's over a month away from now. So if you're okay with that, but
yeah, I just like I say, the Zoom worked very well through COVID, and when you have Zoom, I personally like to see the rest of the directors get a little feedback on body language, and I was very satisfied with the results of our Zooms last year.
Understood. So I think we take that under consideration. We'll make sure we convey that to President Wilkins, but make a call closer to the date of the publication of the agenda.
Yeah, I'm real willing to do this.
Okay.
Scott, what do you think?
Having done way more Zoom meetings than I would care to, I personally would prefer to be in person, but it's also critical that we take
Take a look at what this flu thing is.
Exactly. Take into account what's going on with COVID and the flu. And I absolutely like what Blake's saying. It's one of those things where the last 3 years it seems like it changes every month.
Yeah.
But I seeing people in person really, for me, at this stage as a board member, is critical.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we had a motion to postpone the meeting of the 16th of November to the 30th, and that's the extent of the motion.
We need someone to give.
I'll second.
Who gave the original motion?
I think I kind of stated
Okay.
it. Dale
I'll make the
moved
motion.
for it,
I'll
and
second.
Scott seconded it. And
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so put it on your calendars.
Motion approved.
So we're looking at November 30th.
Yep. Great, so that brings us to the end of the regular agenda and on to department and management reports.
Operations is
It's got a new look.
Good morning, Vice President Treason, Board of Directors. For the operations report for September, for compliance, all plant waste discharge requirements were met for the month. Operations, the plant performed well through the month. We continue to maintain a neutral pH on the effluent. We're still working on the WIM system for operations, our reporting and data acquisition. Implementation is ongoing there. Cleaned and inspected and added media to final filter number 4. We'll show a photo of that here in a second. Operations work orders completed were 0 and 1 pending. For the laboratory, staff performed the necessary testing. The laboratory information system, the LIMS implementation is ongoing. Lab staff expect to provide a demonstration at the November board meeting. So we anticipate that the process will be completed and give just a brief demonstration of kind of what the capabilities of the LIMS system is, what it looks like and stuff. We're also working on the quality manual and other documentation in accordance with NELAC so that we can meet our T&I requirements. Other than that, can you go to the next slide, please? This is just the slide of the filter number 4. What we have to do is we lose a certain amount of media through backwashes and stuff through the year. These are closed vessel final filtration. We just had to clean it and then add some media back to it, which is the anthracite coal. Any questions on the operations report?
Yeah, as far as for the TRI scanning, how far did we get this year?
So that was schedules 1 and 2. I think it's maybe on the order of like 37,000 feet.
And no anomalies?
And nothing to report in terms of surprises.
Thank you, Mike.
So I'll take on maintenance, raw numbers for the work orders for the month. Give me a second to take a look at those. Next slide. So a lot of familiar projects that are continuing, Wi-Fi upgrade, firewall, chlorine scrubber project that we're assistant engineering with, roofing wrapping up as well as the coating. As far as actual maintenance, some more 2 water leaks that we had to take care of. We're able to knock out some hot patch from all the previous 2 water leaks and get those all wrapped up. Did some work on the influence sampler I/O, which is basically the information coming in and out of it. And then we continue to work on the flow guard installation and the parallel line, getting close to wrapping that up as well. And then we replaced our VPN system to the most latest, greatest security system there, and continued working on chlorine alarm and the I/O on that one as well. So a few pictures, installing hot patch at the front gate to have a walkway for the pedestrian gate so we can keep the snow clear in the winter. One of our E&I techs working on a final effluent meter. And staff wrapping up the reinstallation of handrail, grading, draft tubes and stuff on the secondary that has just been coated in the engineering project. Wraps up the maintenance report. Any questions I can take? Yes.
When you referred to the 2 water leaks, did that include the water leak that was discovered, that was reported last meeting, that we didn't know existed and was behind a panel? Does that make sense?
That was for the
That was for
Control
the
room.
that was for the control room projects
Okay.
improvement, and it was a window that was allowing.
So is that
So
one of
the
the,
2 water lines run throughout the facility. We use it for wash down. It's our recycled water.
Okay.
So it's external. So Usually they're feeding fire hydrants, hose bibs, those kind of things, so.
The one you're referring to was it was what we think was outside water getting in.
Okay.
An actual
from
leak.
From the roof and from the wall through an improperly sealed window, and then got in and dry rotted the lumber.
And is that going to be reported out what the extent of that was?
Yeah, so that, thank you for your generous allowance for that. It ended up being far less than what we thought it was going to be. So, yeah, so the amount, it was on the order of maybe $1,500.
Oh, great.
Okay.
And they couldn't tell until they started peeling stuff away. But unfortunately, it was far less.
Thank you.
Richard, a follow-up question on your report. In the packet, there was some photos where maintenance is working on the TRI digital scanning. I think of that as it looks like the crews are pouring concrete, or not concrete, but asphalt, and doing road repair. Why was that required as part of the digital scanning? That's just televising the pipeline.
Sure. The manhole that the digital scanner needed to access is under about 8 inches, 10 inches-ish of asphalt.
Okay.
So Sport and Engineering, we went out, saw cut it, remove it, they scan it, then we replace the asphalt to keep Caltrans happy.
So it's not brought back to grade. It's a known kind of buried
Yeah, in fact,
manhole because
on
it's
the-
in a plow damage potential
Yeah.
zone or something like that.
In the original plans, the buy-off and back in the day from, I think, the highway, Caltrans, the intent is for those to be buried, covered.
Okay. But you have to jackhammer them out to access them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you rebury them.
And then we rebury them.
Okay.
And I think this is the only one we have on the highway that, is there another one?
There's a couple, but it's the only one that we need to get to, unless it's an emergency.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was curious. Is that great?
All right, so engineering?
Yeah, so engineering, happy to report that both the roof repair project and the plant coating project are complete in terms of field work. And the control room upgrades project is ongoing. We're essentially halfway through that. Visual scanning, the field work is complete. The corn and scrubber, they've done some preliminary civil work to support that outside, but they have yet to do the work inside the building. We're waiting on materials on that. No projects in bid phase. Next slide, please. And then in development, the digester improvement study, which I referred to earlier, and the filter inflow and condition assessment project that's ongoing. We're waiting for some equipment to arrive on that. Next slide, please. So just some photos of our completed roof sections from the summer's work. Building 4, 6A, and Building 3. Next slide, please. And then this is the finished product for the paint, the coating project. Secondary clarifier number 1 on the left, and stripper basin 57 on the right.
So we'll expect to see some sort of notice of completion and a future board agenda. You said the contractor's substantially complete.
Yeah, so historically, we have not sought board approval for notice of completions.
Okay.
But if you'd like to, I guess you guys.
I can talk to Richard about that. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that they're done and staff was satisfied with
Yeah.
the work.
Yep. And then this is close to the finished product on building 13 and 53. This is the control room upgrades. And Director Wilson, the area you were talking about with the water damage was behind that, or underneath, and in that window area in the right-hand picture.
Great.
I think that's next slide. That may be it.
Hey Jay, you mentioned the influent filter study.
Yeah.
Could you just remind us what
Sure.
that project is?
So that's the filter influent pipeline. So that's the pipeline that goes from what we call the multi-purpose pump station down at the far end of the plant, down that way up to the filters. It's a single main. As far as we're concerned, as far as we know, it's never been inspected on the inside. And so what that project does is we're getting a device that accurately measures the wall thickness.
Okay.
And so we can go down and do a catalog of where we stand on the remaining life on that pipeline.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Great. Any other questions for engineering? Crystal?
So for the finance group, we're still knee-deep in audit, and we just got a new list of requests. They'll be here the week of November 14th on site. We've also been getting some training in for all of my team. Under the billing and customer service, we work with member districts to activate new account permits. Kaylee and I went on completed inspection of the Bear Belly Brewing with North Tahoe PUD. And then we also went over and reviewed some plans with Katie at TSD, or Kaylee.
Katie.
Katie. Next slide. I never get to have pictures, so I threw a picture up there of what we inspected. And then we had 2 new residential addition connection permits and 2 accessory dwelling permits. Next slide. I'm continuing conversations with various financial advisors and investors, trying to bring Richard into the loop of the different people that I've been working with for the past year and a half. And then we've had several internal meetings with management and with HDR for the rate study. My correction there, that should say participated in the local manager's operation and maintenance meeting. It was very educational for me. So, and that's it for finance and admin. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions for Crystal? No. Thank you, Crystal. We'll move on. I'm trying to remember. Do we typically open up? I remember we would open it up for public comment regarding staff reports and then go on to the GM report?
After the GM report.
After the GM report. Okay, we'll move on to Richard's GM report.
As Crystal mentioned, the big topic is the connection fee and rate studies. We're working on that. Staff continues to implement the new software programs as discussed by the managers. Continued progress on CIP projects, and been working on some research for leadership training as well. Continue to work on one-on-one meetings with staff. We did conduct that all-staff meeting to meet with staff after the last board meeting. Felt it went well. We had good participation and good feedback. We've been finalizing the scope of work for the first phase of the state IT master plan, and then continue to work on various policies that we've identified we need to either create or update. And then we did have an all-staff potluck. Had good turnout. It was seemed to be enjoyed by staff. That's all I have.
Nice. Any questions for Richard? No? All right. Thank you, staff. I'll open it up for Board of Directors comments. Dave?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Dale?
I got a couple of questions. The first question I have, and I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but you know, when LaRue came on board, one of the first things we did was we did away with the employee appreciation I
Safety
want to say
incentives.
gifts, but what would you call it, Rochelle?
They were safety awards.
Safety awards. We did away with the employee safety awards, which I, sitting back looking at it, I seem to think that it might have a little bit of effect on morale when you don't sit back and physically show appreciation to your staff and employees. And I was wondering whether or not the rest of the board would agree with the possibility of reestablishing a safety award program for our employees. You could see by the first part of the agenda, all the employees taking a significant effort in making this a safe work environment. And saying thank you is great from the board, but I think that we should take it a little bit further and reinstate the safety award program for our employees. That's the first item that I wanted to comment on. And the second thing is, and Mike, you and Richard could kind of help me out with this with a time frame, but we have a significant amount of area under roof that goes from the lab forward. And you know, the ion exchange, since we dismantled a lot of the ion exchange and we had that carbon furnace in there and a lot of big equipment that takes up a lot of room that is under roof that could be used for other purposes. And do we have a plan, and this is something that's been going on for several years, that now that we know that BNR is working perfectly and we are not holding back with dismantling any of the old ion exchange equipment, do we have a time frame on dismantling some of that stuff out there and either having a salvage sale and starting to utilize this under roof space that has been sitting stagnant for so long?
Richard, do you want me to take that, or do you want?
Yeah, I'll let you give your thoughts as well. But it is part of the master plan as well as to evaluate those spaces, and they've identified some reuse as well. It would be a large demolition project, so it's outside. I would say generally speaking, it's outside the scope of our staff just because of the complexity of removing those large tanks. Some of the piping and stuff like that we have started to do and reclaim some of those smaller spots, but I'll have Michael give his opinion as well.
It's also my understanding that we're going to, through the engineering department, we're starting to do some safety analysis for paint, stuff like that, see what we can remove and what that process is going to entail. What safety factors are we going to have in place to remove some of that? We don't know lead-based paints, all that asbestos, all those tests. We're going to have to clarify if I'm mistaken. But we're going to be looking into that because that'll give us an idea, help us to get an idea of how big of the scope is it going to be to remove this equipment from those areas.
And I'll add that there wasn't a specific master plan project to demo that equipment. It was, I think they envisioned, I think it was part of another project where that project was going to utilize some of the space, so that those costs were folded into that specific project. But that doesn't mean that it can't be its own project if we decide that that's how we want to shift things.
Okay, no further questions.
Thanks, Dale. Scott?
Yeah, I'm not sure where this fits in, but at the Finance Committee meeting, we talked about an annual report. And Richard, thank you very much for forwarding me the Monterey report, which is unbelievably extensive and incredibly long. I get one in the mail every year from the NTPUD, which I believe is 8 pages, and It's extremely informative to me as a taxpayer for that. And I think that we need to look at creating that. I know, Crystal, that's one of the things that's on your agenda. And I think as taxpayers, to see where our tax dollars are going in a concise, high-quality annual report of those, I think it is a great communication tool to understand. And as we look at this master plan going forward, I think the more information we can get out to the taxpayers is critical. And I don't know if that fits into this part or not, but Blake, I certainly like your input on it.
Yeah. I'll start off by saying, the Finance Committee is really working out well. Kudos to Crystal and Richard, and really valuable. And Crystal did bring up the concept and desire to produce this annual report. Right now we have annual audits, annual budgets, but no kind of summary statement. And so I think staff is moving in that direction, and it sounds like you're in support of that. I think I am too. And so as time allows, I think that's a great way to go. And we can talk about how we would disseminate that. Whether it's a mailer to all of our customers or something we post on the website, or how we go about making that document that's really for the public, as much for the public as anybody else, available. That's a good project going forward.
I like the idea of it just because I've been asked questions that I can't answer in Alpine, and that would be a great tool.
And I think there's some ancillary benefits to it as well. Crystal, can you share those?
Yeah, so my vision of this, and I started talking to Lulu about it when I first started here, I actually have kind of a step process that I worked out with the auditors, and the first part is to go for the California award, because you can get award and a certificate for it, which just gives us more credibility in borrowing, or if we have to do anything like that. But so the first step would be to get the California version of that annual report award, and then the next step would be the national, which would be the GFOA certificate, which also, by the way, you can get that also for budget. That's another thing down the line, I think. But for the annual report, the one I'm familiar with, the Washoe County one, it's a book, and of course they've been doing it forever. I don't know if we could get away with an 8-page one, but we don't need a 100-page one either, I don't think. I would like to see, I know you guys do TSD does a year in review or something like that.
Yeah, and it's just for the board. It's not really a published document. So this is.
It does, but the benefits are that you're giving more visibility. Obviously, anybody from the public can go get our audit and our budget off of our website, and it just gives us more visibility, and it also increases credibility for the agency, for taxpayers, and for investors, or what have you.
That's great. So I support that, and this is really the staff brought this up. I mean,
right.
I think we're just indicating our desire to see you guys continue to pursue that effort, and I think that will increase transparency. I think our agency has, despite the vital role we play for the community, kind of remained kind of out of sight, and it's hard to find a mechanism to kind of play a role in our communities given the service we provide. And this document could be one way to kind of share with the public what it is we do, and increase our transparency and role in the community. Great. Anything else, Scott? No. Okay, great. I have just a couple additional director comments. I just want to say you guys have done a little remake on the packet, more photos of this. I really appreciate that. You probably know exactly what you mean when you talk about various unit processes. We don't, and so the more photos you can share, the better. And so thank you guys for doing that. Dale said, look into bringing back the staff safety award. I don't remember, I wasn't here when LaRue first came on and we removed something. I do have a recollection of, I've got some things that we've given out that you also provide to the board members. So anyway, take a look at that and, consider that and bring it back. I think safety is paramount for the agency, and anything we can do. I like the 2 hours of admin leave for folks who bring these great recommendations forward. And if there's more to encourage safety at the organization, that's money well spent, I believe. So I would support that also, and look forward to you guys to come up with ideas to encourage safety.
Okay.
I think it wasn't necessarily taken away, just restructured.
Okay.
So that people who participated more in the safety suggestions actually directly received,
Okay.
Something, and
Okay.
comes out to more benefit.
And I don't have Dale's experience. The board has really changed. Dale, the three of us, are newbies compared to you, and so if there was a program that was in place that you like, I'm sure staff probably remembers it, and so, take Dale's recommendations into consideration.
It's just a good morale booster. Giving the 2 hours comp time or whatever for safety suggestions is one thing, but there's a whole lot of people out there on the floor that are safety minded, that are doing their job as safely as possible, and they're not getting the recognition and they're not getting the thanks from the agency or the board. And those little things, whether it be a camel pack or whether it be whatever the stuff was that we used to give away, it's meaningful for morale. And we've got to focus a little bit more on morale here.
Vicki does do annual wellness gifts too, so it's kind of, we still get a gift, it's just under a different title, I suppose. So we've gotten backpacks, binoculars, like all different types of gifts. So it's just been supplemented in a different way. But that doesn't mean that we can't still get to that.
And we do I believe it's quarterly safety luncheon that everyone gets to participate in as recognition for all the safety efforts that staff puts forward as well. So,
now, what about the red truck? Just to vary a little bit more of the agency giving back to the employees. I know that LaRue had the red truck come in here and buy lunch for everybody every now and again. Is this something that we can continue to do, or is it being done? I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, last time we utilized
It was Golden Rotisserie was the last one that we did.
So we used various vendors within the area to bring lunch in.
So it sounds like you guys are doing some good stuff for encouraging safety, but, if there's more, Dale's expression, I think, is, if there was something else we were doing, reconsider that. And, I think, can't speak for the whole board, but I think we all certainly want to encourage safety, and whatever we can do to do that is great.
The lunches are annual, just for a correction there. And then in terms of the safety awards, that those monies were shoveled from the safety awards to fund more of the 2 hours of AL for safety suggestions. The disadvantage that I've heard over the years, if I may, is that the safety awards often would give people things like winter jackets and apparel that is otherwise not often given out. So it's a benefit living in Truckee to have lots of multiple heavy, winter wear. So I see that one disadvantage of moving away from the safety awards is that it was just one less opportunity for our staff to get some warm coats to wear.
I would like to share something with you, and I love what you just said. Incentives over the years in my previous world, we created an incentive, and this is going to age me, over 30 years ago, where we actually went to the employees and said, what would you like this incentive to? And what drove them were the members-only jackets. So that tells you how long ago this was. I've never seen a group of people work harder to get that particular thing. So when you say that, that's something that they have that they wear every day, especially when it gets cold. I love ideas like that. And the second thing I will tell you is that the thing that absolutely stunned me at the last meeting were how many days is it now? 4,000 days without a loss?
It's now over 10 years, so it's
That's remarkable. And what I saw on the agenda was those 6 people that created those ideas. That's the type of culture that you want to keep and make it go forward. So anything we can do, Dale, that you're...
Yeah. No, I
think that's critical.
It's just, like I say, and I hate to be a broken record on this, but morale has been an issue here. And anything we can do as a board to foster good morale within this organization is a positive step. And we've been through some pretty significant trying times here. And with the transition we got with Richard and Mike taking over the general manager's interim assistant general manager has been a giant step. As I get the reading from the time that I spend in here talking with our staff and people, it's been significant. And I want to improve on that. I want to see a morale shift here. So when we have a Christmas party, we have 95% participation instead of 30% participation, because there's a certain segment of the rank and file that's pissed off because of something either we've done or something that management has done that has made anxiety and controversy. And so we're on the right track here. And I just want to keep moving forward in a positive direction to turn this around and make this so that when people come through that gate, they want to be here. It's not because they have to be here, it's they want to be here. And so whatever we can do to improve on that, I'm for 100%.
Thanks, Dale. On that note, my last 2 comments. One was just if you wouldn't mind reiterating the plans for the holiday dinner, so we can make sure. I think we can try and get that on our agendas. I think staff, they may or may not like it when the board shows up, but I think it's a great show, Dale, for the board to show up and celebrate with staff for those events.
You take the lead since you're planning.
The 3rd's a little early, but
It is. Unfortunately, starting the process later in the year gives us less options. Excuse me. So Reno gave us more options or of inventory to choose from. So earlier in the year is usually better for staff because they have family events, friend events, and all these Friendsgivings and Christmas things. So it helps to get more participation. And so far, even though we still have a couple weeks left to RSVP, we have more participation now than we ever had. So
that's just
So when is the timing?
December 2nd.
Okay.
It's a Friday.
Okay.
December 2nd in Reno at the El Dorado.
Okay. Great. So, in Dale's vein, more board members that can show up and show their appreciation, have a chance to rub shoulders with staff.
I'll be there in
Great.
spirit.
And before you leave, before you leave, I can give you a physical flyer so you can have that
Great.
information.
Yeah,
to
I've got it
go
on my calendar.
Yeah.
Put on your fridge.
Yeah. Thank you, Rochelle. And then I guess lastly, my comment, since we're not postponing the November board meeting till the 30th, would just be to, send a happy Thanksgiving to all staff, since we won't see them till after that. And everybody has a good holiday. Anything else? At this point, we will close the open session.
Misbehaving, Your Honor.
In my honor.
Maybe we take a 5-minute recess
Yeah.
and reconvene. We have a couple closed session items to deal with.